All right, welcome along to the RT Soccer Podcast. I'm Raf Diallo and I'm joined by Conor Neville of RT Sport Online. And we're going to be looking back at the weekend's results domestically in the SSE Electricity League Premier Division, First Division and Women's National League. Plus we'll touch on Champions League and also matters in League One as well, where Georgie Kelly scored on his debut for Rotherham United. To do all that and with a bit of expertise, we've got Gary Rogers and Johnny McDonnell. Lads, how are you all keeping?
All good morning.
Good stuff. Before we get into matters at hand, I think, Conor, is this your second podcast appearance of the week? I know you've talked before about being overexposed on our channels, but it seems to be happening again.
Yeah, there's going to be widespread protests at seeing me on YouTube the whole time. I mean, this is grotesque, really. I mean, I shouldn't be here. I'm filling a gap for someone, really, I'm sure.
Well, no, I asked you specifically, so there's obviously a reason for that. I actually did want to talk about Longford Town, which of course you will have connections with as someone who grew up in the county.
It's been a costly few days for Longford Town, unfortunately. After a sluggish start to the season, they had made a fine burst, and it was tentative hopes we'd have a three-horse race, at least at the top of the First Division. Now, we might have a three-horse race, given that Waterford are rallying, but yeah, it was a disappointing couple of days. I mean, when Verdon put them 1-0 up in Cork, and then it all unravelled badly in the second half, and then a sort of 2-0 defeat yesterday. I wasn't there. I was working, but it seemed pretty comprehensive. And now, fortunately, because of the structure of the First Division, it's very hard not to make the playoff. So, I mean, there's a fair chance. They'll be there. I mean, they got the last time they got promoted was, Pip and Shels in the last day after finishing fourth, I think, in the league. So there's always that chance. I mean, I do think it's fortuitous that we mightn't have a two-horse race in the First Division, because I think a two-horse race with two teams miles away from the rest would have really shown up the slightly strange structure that fifth is then competing with second in a playoff. But anyway, they're lucky in that respect.
Yeah, we digress. Speaking of three-horse races, although obviously a semi-final means four teams, the Champions League ladder stage now looks like it is a three-horse race. I mean, Gary, when we're looking at the game that's on RT2 and the RT player tonight in regards to Liverpool, can't really see past them at all, because just with the 2-0 win against Villarreal last week, and the fact that it's very unlikely that anyone's going to overturn that against Liverpool team of this quality.
Yeah, well, look, I suppose you're right. Liverpool, the quality that they have and the energy that they seem to have and the way they play and go about their business, and I suppose the manager that's there, Klopp, and everything about Liverpool is just, it's so refreshing, if you like, and the way they play football and the way they attack the games are so entertaining to watch. Obviously, City, very entertaining, but it's slightly different style. I think Liverpool are more on the front foot a little bit, and really look to punish teams in high areas and win the ball back up the pitch and take it from there. And they've got such fantastic quality all around the squad. So it's I couldn't see past Liverpool getting through. Although it'll be difficult, but I do think if they score first, I think it'll be very difficult for Villarreal to get something out of the game.
And Johnny, the other game on Wednesday, obviously the return leg of Real Madrid versus Manchester City. The last game was a bit of a thriller, a bit of a classic. City will still come in as favourites, but there's something about this Real Madrid team that doesn't matter what age these players are. And you go through the time when Zidane was in charge of them as well, and even when Carlo Ancelotti previously won the Champions League with them. They have something within. They have, obviously they're a squad of winners, but there's some sort of DNA within that team that just seems to get them over the line the whole time. So for City, definitely it's a tough one for them.
Look, anything could happen in this game. The game in City was fantastic. It was brilliant to watch. You just couldn't take your eyes off. Anything could happen. But I think, with Real Madrid, with Benzema, with the form that he's in at the moment, I think what he's added to his game, he scored obviously lots of goals, but the work that he does around the pitch for the team as well. And I think when Ronaldo was around, with Real, that he was doing all that work, but Ronaldo was getting all the goals. But now he's doing all that work because he knows how to do it, and now he's getting all the goals as well. So it just added so much to his game, and he's leading the team, absolutely leading the team. Look, anything could happen. If anything, first goal, will be really vital. Be brilliant to be at the game, but Look, I don't know whether City will get over the line on this one. I think the pressure is on Pep, really a lot of pressure on to get to that Holy Grail and winning the Champions League. And yeah, I think they might falter here.
Yeah,
Johnny, just on Benzema, Johnny, do you think he's one that goes under the radar in terms of top players? If you look at how long he's been at Real Madrid and the level of performances that he's put in over the years, he's one that he's not really up there with it. I'm not saying he's a Ronaldo or Messi, but he's a top class player.
Well, he's the longevity, as you said, of what he's done, and as I said, he's probably been, with Ronaldo there and all the top players there. He's probably right. It's a fair point to say that he's been under the radar, but he's there every week. He's consistent. He obviously with all the managers he's come through, he's been there. He's had a little bit of troubles, hadn't he, down the line with off the field stuff, all that, and but look, he's coming through. He's scoring the goals. He's leading the team, absolutely leading that team. He seems to be well liked around the team as well. Top player, I have to say.
And the one thing I was going to ask both of you actually was in regards to the Panenka, and when you think about situations when you're going to pull that one out of the bag or out of the golf bag, which way would you go on it? Like, obviously it worked out for him, but at the same time, I mean, I know Zinedine Zidane did it in the 2006 World Cup final, but he's Zinedine Zidane, and I know Benzema's not that far away from him. But would you have gone for that at all yourselves?
Maybe you'd be nicknamed Benzema now. Maybe the new name is going to be Benzema. Look, he's that does not just sum it up. Does not just sum up his confidence, his belief in himself that he would go and do that under so much pressure. The manager will believe. If anyone misses out like that disaster. But he's so much confidence under that pressure to do that. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I'll be absolutely fuming if I'm in the goals and he does that. Like,
have you ever faced a Panenka, Gary? Have you?
I have. Funny enough, I caught Stephen Gagan doing a Panenka down the middle. One of the days I just stood in the goal and he just dinked it into my arm. So as a manager, I know that Derry McKeely was the manager, or Pat Fenlon at the time. They absolutely went through him in the dressing room for a shortcut afterwards. So look, it's one of those, if you do it, lads do it in training, you're fuming. Because you're not going to do it in the game. But look at Benzema, and there's a few others that have done it as well. So, but yeah, look, it takes great bottle and courage to step up and do that at that stage in the game. But yeah, look, I can imagine Johnny as a manager, he wouldn't be all that happy, especially if the keeper stands there and picks it up.
You're only happy when they go in, and of course it depends on the game. Like, the fella might be winning 3 or 4-0, and the fella might step up and try and do it. But in the vital time in the game and the pressure, as we're talking about here, to go and do that, but to have the confidence and the courage, as you say, to do it. I wouldn't say I took many Panenkas in my day. I probably didn't take any penalties. Scored a few headers, I'd say, but no Panenkas.
Yeah, it's something I've never done, never will get to do, and I think it's not worth the risk for people like me to try it. But anyway, as you said, anything can happen in these Champions League semi-finals. Anything did happen also in the League of Ireland Premier Division over the weekend. So if we just run through the results, Harps, great result for them, 1-0 win over Shelbourne. Dundalk got revenge for the previous Derby defeat by beating Drogheda 4-1. Bohemians got a much-needed win, 3-0 against UCD. St. Pat's lost 4-0 at home to Derry City. Now we're going to talk about that one in detail because that's a huge result. And then Sligo Rovers won, Shamrock Rovers won, which was live on RT2 and RT Player. And obviously, Johnny, I know you were there for us pitch side for it. But before we go into both of those games and the rest of the games over the weekend, let's listen to Liam Buckley and Stephen Bradley first.
Liam Buckley, a 1-1 draw here with Shamrock Rovers. Does that nearly feel like a win for you given the second half performance?
There wasn't a lot in the game now, in fairness. I think the first half, I think Ed had one shot to save. We both huffed and puffed a wee bit, but I think it's probably a fair result.
What do you think changed with your own team's performance in that second half?
We just got on top of it a little bit more. We pushed up a little bit more. We were a little bit tighter on them. We got more involved in the game instead of looking at them. We gave them a bit too much respect in the first half. But look, as I say, I'm pleased with the way the whole thing's ended up.
Would it be fair to say that the introduction of Killian Healy gave you a real boost?
Yeah, it did, yeah. He's plenty of energy. We knew he'd bring plenty of energy to the picture here, and he's done great here on the right-hand side to get the ball in the box and whatever. But yeah, delighted for him.
OK, thank you, Liam.
Thank you.
Stephen Bradley, that was a frantic second half. What are your reflections at full time?
Yeah, I was disappointed about how we managed the second half. We came away from the small detail and we allowed it to be a frantic game, and we shouldn't have been that. And it's cost us in the end.
Do you feel you could have scored a second when you were on top in that first half?
Yeah, we had half chances. We had half chance in the second half. But like I said, we didn't manage it right in the second half. We came away from the small detail and they get one opportunity and they score.
And they got that goal and they were pushing hard at the end as well. But you too pushed hard towards the end. Your side battled hard and you had a couple of chances late on.
Yeah, it could have went either way at the end with both pushing on. But yeah, look, it's a point, we move on.
Is that a point gain, do you feel, in the overall scheme of things?
We'll see come the end of the season.
And Derry have obviously beaten St. Pat's by this evening in Dublin pretty convincingly. Do you pay any attention to the other results?
No, like I said before the game, it's very early. We focus on what we do. We've been here before. We've done this before. The best team wins the league at the end of the season. We wait to see the end of the season. If we have enough, we have enough. If we don't, we don't.
And just finally a word on Andy Lyons. Another goal again tonight. He's in some form.
Yeah, he's very good again. Really good goal. He played really well overall.
Okay, thank you, Stephen.
Cheers.
All right, that is both managers, Liam Buckley and Stephen Bradley, after the Battle of the Rovers. Sligo Rovers and Shamrock Rovers drew 1-1 up at the showgrounds. Johnny, you were there pitch side for it. Obviously, Shamrock Rovers had the better of the game in terms of the flow of it, but Sligo, despite being second best for large periods, did hang in there until Jordan Hamilton got the equaliser, and probably at a time when he was going to get hooked because he wasn't exactly making much of a contribution. So from Sligo's point of view, this is the second draw they've had against Shamrock Rovers. Obviously, there's something within that squad. They've had a few ups and downs, but they're impressive enough. Yeah,
listening to Liam there, I thought they finished the game strong. If we walk backwards, I know Rovers, as they were saying, had lots of the play, but I think Sligo Rovers finished the game strong. I think Liam said it's probably a fair result. I probably wouldn't agree with that. I think Shamrock Rovers had dominated the play, but just didn't turn the screw. They didn't push it home. They had lots of possession. Second half started with Sligo. They just had a right go. They just played their own game. The first half, they were going around Manmark and Jack Bourne and Mandrew, and they were losing their shape. And Rovers controlled the game. In saying that, Andy Lyons scores a brilliant header. With all the play that Shamrock Rovers had, Andy Lyons scores a brilliant header from a corner. So he didn't actually pull them apart. Lee mentioned that the shots on target and stuff, but. I'd say Steve Bradley would be just absolutely so disappointed not to get the 3 points there because they dominated the match for long, long periods, but just didn't push it home. They just kind of felt I think we're okay, we'll do this, we'll get through the game, 1-0 will do us. And as I said, Sligo Rovers finished the game really, really well, pushed on, pressed up and high up in the second half. And Hamilton, you're probably 100% right, he done absolutely nothing in the game, only scored a goal. And he was probably on his way off the pitch at that stage.
And he did make his way off the pitch, I think, after that as well. In any case.
Go out on a high.
Yeah, going out on a high indeed. And anyway, goals, I suppose, are the currency for strikers. Like, if you're doing nothing else and you're getting a goal, that's kind of the most important thing. But as Johnny was saying, Gary, Stephen Bradley would be kind of disappointed with the way the result panned out. Performance-wise, how disappointed will he be, though? I mean, as we kind of said, they largely had the control of the game, but that thing of not pushing on and getting the second, you're always leaving yourself at risk.
Yeah, they were kind of controlling the game, all right, but they were controlling the game in areas where Sligo were happy for them to control it, and I watched the game where Sligo played Shamrock Rovers up in Tala, and Rovers was sensational in that game, and they were 2-0 down, and they could have went on and beat Sligo 4-2. It was that sort of a game, but Sligo, in fairness to them, they've been capable in that game up in Tala. The two chances they took both in the game in the showgrounds, they had one chance and they took it. One really, even that was a really good finish. It wasn't by any means a tap in or anything like that. But Sligo then pushed on. Obviously tried to get the winner. But Sligo themselves will be happy with the way they're performing. Obviously, Shamrock Rovers will probably feel that they've left a couple of points behind. But it is very early in the season for them. I know Derry have gone and got a really good result away in Pats, but I don't think Shamrock Rovers have hit top gear yet. I think they were probably comfortable in that Sligo game without really pushing on and showing that extra bit of quality that I think they have, and I think they have got gears in them and more improvement left in them.
Yeah, we'll talk about the Derry City game and just how that leaves the table also in regards to Pats very shortly. But before that, there is the links that are linking kind of Stephen Bradley to Lincoln City in League One. So they finished 17th this season, but they've moved on from Michael Appleton, who was the manager that was there, and Stephen Bradley seems to be top of the list for them. And not just him, also Aidan Fitzmaurice in the Irish Independent was saying also that Stephen McPhail and Glenn Cronin, who are part of that management structure, Shamrock Rovers, are also being targeted, and Bradley's out of contract. So Johnny, in regards, we don't know exactly how this is going to play out as of yet, but it seems that the links are strong. But where does this leave Shamrock Rovers? Because obviously Bradley's done a brilliant job there over the last few years, and if he were to go, like, how do they move on from that?
It's going, look, it's going to be difficult if Stephen moves on. He has ambitions to go to a higher league for the one to, for saying that, but going to England, if players are doing it, like managers can go and do it. And if, we probably need someone as well that can go away and do well as a manager or as a coach, to go to somewhere else and do really well. And it might open up pathways for other managers or coaches to go that direction as well. Regarding the club, I'm sure they're working hard in the background to bring someone in to see who fits the role. The DNA of Shamrock Rovers at the moment, like Stephen has been there a long time now, not only just as the manager, but as the youth team development. So he's been at the club a long time. He's well part of the culture there, well part of the club. So I'm sure they're foraging around in the background, and the squad is there, the team is there. The work that Stephen has done is going to be there. That would be the legacy. That's if he goes. We don't know if he's going to go, but who do you get in? I don't know. I don't know. Will he take someone in from there? I'm sure if Shamrock Rovers put out an application for the job, they will get hundreds and hundreds of applications.
Yeah, as we said, we don't know exactly how this is going to play out. Obviously, the links from the way it's being reported is relatively strong, Gary. But the incentives for him to stay, obviously, there's a possibility of a run in the Champions League qualifiers potentially if the group stages don't happen. Then the Europa Conference League, they came close last season. There's also the looking to win another league title. So there are incentives for him to stay. I would imagine, Gary.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, either way, I think Stephen's going to have really good options there, because obviously Shamrock Rovers is a top job in the country, and like you say, European football, they're pushing on to win another league title. There is huge pluses for him to stay, of course, but obviously the opportunity to go to the UK is there from, as Johnny said, and managers like players like to go and test themselves. And if the opportunity comes up, and we don't know how solid that opportunity is, but it appears to be so. You'd imagine, like, if you turn it down, it's a difficult, like, do you get another opportunity? And like, I think what Stephen has done at Shamrock Rovers, a young manager, has been brilliant. He's obviously brought through a lot of young players through the group, and obviously some players have gone to the UK and that, but to win cups and league titles at a young age, so he's done a terrific job. And it's no surprise that there is interest in the UK, and I know the MK Dons were linked with him last year. It's just, look, I suppose we're second guessing here. Does he go? And if he does go, who comes into Shamrock Rovers? Because I think that would be very interesting, because I've obviously been in dressing rooms before where managers have left, and like, I remember when Paul Cook left Sligo, he had signed the whole squad, and he left, I think, the week before the start of the season. Now, Sligo got it right in that instance, that they brought in Ian Barraclough, and he did a fantastic job. But it will be a tough conundrum for Shamrock Rovers, to get that appointment right if he goes.
Yeah, if he goes. So we'll see how that one pans out. We did touch on briefly there, St. Pat's losing 4-0 at home to Derry City, and Derry City still flying high at the top of the table. And before we get into the game, I suppose, Conor, the way that result has panned out, again, I suppose it solidifies the way the table is breaking up in regards. There is a clear top two now, and then below that, there's pretty much everyone else bar UCD kind of in relative proximity to each other.
Well, Friday was billed as two games involving two teams in the top four facing off against each other, and that's kind of splintered now, with sort of two teams breaking out in front. It was pretty surreal. I was doing the updates, which is obviously a tricky job, as yourself, the live tracker, because you're keeping on top of Shamrock Rovers and Sligo on the TV, while all these blizzard of goals were coming through from Richmond Park early on. Indeed, Derry had a goal disallowed pretty early on in the game as well. So the ruthlessness was impressive, and I suppose it's contrasted with Shamrock Rovers, who really, I thought, dawdled when they, seemed to be in control of the game. There was a lack of urgency, and there was a kind of, you got the nagging sense they were asking for trouble. There was none of that with Derry. The game killed off by half time, and you could see the body language of the Pats players on the footage coming through. They were a bit shell shocked. It's striking. I mean, we do have a 2-horse race. I mean, and Rory Higgins at the start of the season was very, very keen to talk down their title chances in 2022. Now, he has more of an uphill slog if he's trying to do that now, But it looks like it's going to be a serious race. And if Stephen Bradley departs, who knows? I mean, who knows how Shamrock Rovers are going to bounce back from that. So, but we've had this, as he pointed out, it's early in the season. I mean, Gary, I remember in 2019, I believe people were proclaiming Shamrock Rovers champions quite early in the season, and that didn't quite pan out like that. So
14 points ahead as well, weren't they?
Yeah, and even last year, I mean, early on, Shamrock Rovers didn't have the greatest start. So, these things take time to shake out. But it looks like Derry, with their work in the off season and all the players, the squad they've assembled, they look to be in there for the long haul. So I suspect it will be a very interesting title race this season.
Yeah, I suppose, Johnny, looking at that result and just the run of results that they've had, bar the one or two blips that Derry City have had, I don't think Rory Higgins really can play can play things down at this stage now. They are definitely in this title race.
100%. They've won 9 games. They've only lost the 1 game. They've drawn 3. I watched them recently up in the UCD on the Monday night in the back game, and on a dodgy pitch and a windy night on a Monday, and they came out of that game with a win. But they were so much in control of the game, but pushed on as we're talking about, and they were very, very patient. Good all around the pitch. They're a good sized team. They're a big, strong, physical team with lots of technical players in the team as well. So they can get goals from all areas of the pitch, from defence, midfield, wide areas. McGonigal is flying at the moment, patching, providing all the great stuff in midfield. So look, Duffy is out injured. The fellas come back from injury as well. So he's got a decent enough squad there. Would he be talking about maybe winning the league? Of course he will in the dressing room. Absolutely. He'd be telling the players they're good enough, they're strong enough, the ability, they'll have that desire. Gary knows about that desire. And, when a team is driving from within in the dressing room, it makes things so much easier. The manager assembles the squad, picks the team. When you're winning, it's easy to keep everyone happy, whether you're rotating players and stuff like that. But it comes it comes from within the team, the drive and the desire.
Yeah, you mentioned Patching and McGonigal, but also Cameron Dummigan, who got the 4th goal against Pats, has been getting kind of rave reviews for his performance in that game. Like, how crucial has he been in his position as well?
Well, Cameron obviously at Dundalk. He didn't get lots of game time initially at the start of Dundalk, but he's a very adaptable player. He's a player that you can play him left full, you can play him wing back, Gary. You can play him. I've seen him playing holding centre midfield. So again, a no-nonsense player, a great player for the manager, low-maintenance player. He's there all the time, 100%, gives everything for the team. So, an absolute, really, really important cog in the wheel for Derry.
Yeah, Gary, just on him.
Yeah, no, he's technically, he's a brilliant player. Like Johnny said there, like, I would have played with him, but he played left back, right back, left wing, right wing. He played centre back. He played in front of a back 4. Like, he's just technically a good, really, really good player, can play anywhere, and is happy to play anywhere. Like, really good guy in the dressing room as well. Lads are all very fond of him, really likeable character, but like just takes everything in his stride. Like, and nothing's ever an issue with him. And like, he's a really, really good signing for Derry City. Obviously, Rory probably doesn't have the same numbers in the squad that Stephen Bradley and Shamrock Rovers would have. But in Dummigan, he's got a player that can cover 4 positions. So like that in itself, it's a very astute signing, if you like. And I think one thing with Derry City and Rory Higgins as a manager and the club, like, Rory has worked closely with Stephen Kenny for a long time as a player and as an assistant, and in his recent Ireland role as well. So he knows what it takes, and he knows how to manage players, and he's seen it being done, how to keep that team spirit right and keep the motivation in the group and that belief. And I would have seen Derry City teams, and Johnny would have been the same. like, in 2006, 7, 8, where a team you'd be expecting them to fall off, but they never did. They were right there to the end of the season. I think Cork pipped them by goal difference. I can't remember the year, whether it was 2008 or something like that, or 2007, where they pipped them by goal difference. So these guys know what it takes to stay there and stay the course.
Yeah, and Johnny, from the St. Pat's point of view, so Johnny Ward, who was doing the match report for RT Sport Online, he said the 3-goal lead early on that Derry City had, that actually flattered Pats, which probably says a lot. So what went wrong for them on the day, and what's at the heart of the inconsistency? Because results-wise, they picked up some good results over the season so far, but it's been marked by kind of downturns every now and again.
Well, they've lost 5 matches, so at this stage of the season, if you've lost 5 matches, you're not going to win the league, when you average it out. But for me, I would have been saying, looking at Pats, if they can get to Europe, get enough points to get into Europe. But at this stage, it's so inconsistent. As I said, they've lost 5 games this season. They've a young squad. They've a new manager coming in. Takes a bit of time. If you just relate back to Stephen Bradley when he went into Shamrock Rovers, it didn't happen for Stephen overnight with Shamrock Rovers. So I think for Pats, they just got to be patient and make sure they hang in there and just get that consistency going, get a run of games where they can win 2 or 3 games. There are a couple of games coming up over the next few weeks, like where, I think they're away to Derry. I think they're away to Derry in the next couple of weeks and away to Drogheda, which will be a tricky match. So them 2 games are vital that they need to make sure they hang on and pick up a few points. As I said, young team, a new team, and a few injuries, and Tim coming in as a new manager, finding his way. Big difference coming from Drogheda to St. Patrick's Athletic, and no disrespect to Drogheda, but I'm just saying it's a bigger job and different pressures come along with that. So they just need a bit of time, but they need to hang in there and get a few wins on the bounce.
Yeah, which I think is going to be the story for Shelbourne as well, a 1-0 defeat at Finn Harps, and that kind of tightens things in that battle for the relegation playoff place. Gary, again, we've talked a good bit about Shelbourne over the season so far, and I suppose mainly because Damien Duff has come in as manager, obviously as a high-profile figure within Irish football. But this is a second defeat now to Finn Harps. The first one was more the issue because it was a 3-0 and they just got beaten very badly. This time, it's a more chastening result for them.
Yeah, look, they'd be disappointed obviously to lose a goal so late on. It probably wasn't a whole lot in the game in terms of chances. And Ballybuffet, as we all know, it's never easy to go up there and to get results. I know it's a saying that gets bandied about there quite a bit, but it's a difficult venue, and you've got to be up there at your A game. You go up there and you play well, you win. But I'll tell you what, if you're not at it, you'll get done. And in fairness to Finn Harps, they have got quality, like some McNamee there. Ryan Connolly, there's good players up there in Finn Harps, and Webster's been injured as well. But there is a nucleus of good players, and Ollie knows the league inside out. He's done it year in, year out, and I don't see them going down again this year. To be honest with you, I think they'll stay up. I think it's remarkable the job that he's done up there. Obviously, look, Damien will be disappointed not to pick up 3 points. Would have been the intention to go up there and get 3 points. But Shelbourne, their team that's after come up to being promoted, I think mid-table is where they'll be aiming for. They wouldn't have been coming up expecting to get into Europe. Okay, they would have the capability of doing that if you can put a run together. I think because of the gaps between, say, maybe that 4th spot, I think is really up for grabs for a lot of teams. I do see Derry and Shamrock Rovers fighting out for the top 2, no doubt. But I think 4th spot in the league is one that if a team can strengthen in the July window and then put a bit of a run together, I think it's very attainable for lots of clubs, and Shelbourne would be one of them.
Yeah, you mentioned Barry McNamee, who scored the winner. I remember him from when I was doing match reports back in the day when he was at Derry City. Always just seemed a really, really kind of classy player, and I think he's around 30 now, and he can kind of exude that, I guess, that sort of experience that he's picked up over the years. Just a brilliant player, Gary.
Yeah, really good player. Look, I think Barry probably could have played a higher level. I think it's about opportunity. Maybe just didn't get the opportunities to go and play at a higher level. Obviously, look, he played at Derry City, but I think I'm right in saying he's a school teacher. So I think it comes to a stage in a League of Ireland player's career that you've got to make a decision. You obviously the aspiration is to go to the UK and to play for Ireland at the highest level you can, but I think it gets to a certain point in your career where you have to say to yourself, well, look, that ship has sailed for me. He's obviously a teacher, and his part-time football suits him. There's no doubt he could play with a full-time team, you know, in a top team. But I think, you know, he's probably happy in himself in terms of he's enjoying his football. He's had a really good club in Finn Harps, a really good manager, who obviously, and the fans up there will think a whole lot of him, and has a steady job and a steady income as well. So look, that's I suppose the conundrum that League of Ireland football throws at players, and there's different ways, you know, for League of Ireland players.
Yeah, and Johnny, sorry, from
Johnny Horgan, Raf, he was even more pessimistic at the start of this year than every other year, which was a guarantee they were going to stay up.
Yeah, I think he said it was his toughest job. Johnny,
he built his own team as the easy game in the division. Yeah. That's always the way he tells it.
And clearly they're not that. But I suppose, Johnny, I was going to ask you about where you know, for Shels up next, Sligo, Drogheda, Pats, and UCD, and really there's some opportunities there to pick up points. I think UCD are kind of looked at as the way Conor has said about how Ollie Organ was describing Harps, that, you know, UCD are the team other teams are targeting, but they really do need to pick up points, just get some momentum back.
Yeah, I mean, when UCD have conceded 40 goals, so they're letting lots of goals in, but, you know, for Shels, you know, just I think Gary is right. They need to come in and just consolidate, finish up there. Just once they finish and stay in the division, I think they can build from there. I think, you know, we talk about players. I was reading an article about players, Liam Buckley finding it hard for players to sign for Sligo. I think with Shels coming into the league, you know, the Shelbourne will be able to pick up players that are coming out with Shamrock Rovers and stuff like that, are not making the first team, players that are staying in Dublin. I think they have a good opportunity to pick up players. I think the opportunity for them to stay in the league is vital, that they stay there. You know, we've gone through Finn Harps. We know what they do. We'll probably come down to the last day of the season with Ollie again, and they're the last two games, and they'll stay up. UCD are dead up. They're gone. Drogheda have picked up a few results. Bows have got back on the horse now as well. So, look, they just need to make sure they finish ahead of Drogheda in the league, and try and catch the likes of Bows and Pats. You know, there's a bit of a gap developing there between, you know, Bows and Drogheda, 18 points down to 13, then 12 down to Shels. So look, like anyone, a couple of games on the bounce and picking up results, and if they can get, you know, the UCD result, it pushes them up, and, you know, they just need to make sure they finish mid-table.
They have to sort out their home form, really, because, you know, there's some very bizarre results, winning away in Sligo and winning away in Derry. They got another win in Drogheda. Their home form is abject. Just hasn't done much for the Save Talca Park campaign, I don't think.
Yeah.
There we are.
Yeah, but as you said, kind of results being picked up as well. Bohemians again, you know, they had a tricky enough run, but then to go and beat UCD 3-0 at home was a good turnaround for them before they played Derry in what is going to be a very tough game with the way Derry are going. But I suppose finally to finish off the Premier Division, Dundalk had lost the previous derby at Drogheda United, but they kind of roared back and won 4-1 on Friday. And for the job that Stephen O'Donnell is doing there, Gary, you know him well, they've been in reasonably good form in the last few weeks. 4 wins from the last 6, and the only defeat coming to Shamrock Rovers, and then a draw against Pats as well.
Yeah, look, they certainly picked it up, and that draw against St. Pat's, I know we spoke about St. Pat's earlier on. Like, St. Pat's were really dominant in that game, and looked really good sides, whereas I think Dundalk were poor on the night and didn't really deserve the draw, but they certainly kicked on. The one thing about Dundalk is, you know, there's plenty of leaders in that dressing room. There's plenty of know-how. You have Pat Hoban, who you know is going to score 15 plus goals a season. Stephen is obviously, look, he's come in, he hasn't kind of come out there saying that they're looking to win the league. I don't think there's any real title aspirations there right now. He just knows that the group isn't ready. But I do think that European football is certainly attainable for them. And like we said earlier there about going on a run, he's after picking up some good results now. And all of a sudden, they look like, you know, they're in a far better place. And, you know, you come this time of year, if you can keep that sort of run and keep that sort of form, where they were drawing a lot of games. And as Johnny will know as a manager, when you're drawing lots of games, it's very frustrating because, like, you know, you're as well to win one and lose one, you know, as to be drawing 4, 5, 6 draws in a season. So, you know, they broke that little bit of a cycle of drawing too many games and started to pick up a few wins. And they were full value for the win the weekend over Drogheda, and Drogheda had beaten them, I think, the previous 2 loud derbies, which is something that would be uncommon for Dundalk supporters, certainly in recent times, not since maybe Paul Diallo was in charge, where Drogheda having kind of their tails up in terms of loud derbies. But they'll be very happy with that win.
Yeah, and Johnny, just on the job that O'Donnell's done, what have you made of it so far this season?
Look, we all know what he done at Pats, and the move from Pats. He obviously has a right feeling for Dundalk to move from Pats after winning the cup, and I just think they've started the season in the way probably Stephen expected. They're building it nice and slowly. They're coming into the game or into the season, and I just think they're building momentum. The likes of Daniel Kelly, a lad that came in and again didn't probably feature as much as in the last couple of seasons, but he's hit the ground running this season. He's going to be a top player he's going to be a main player for Dundalk this season. And I see, looking at what I've seen with Dundalk this year, I definitely think they're up there, going to be up there, in third position for the league. I really do. I think Stephen's building that momentum nice, and I think they'll be okay. I think they really will. I think they've a bit more about them than Sligo on what I've seen at Pats, and definitely Bowes this season. So I think the future is going to be bright for Dundalk under Stephen.
Yeah, we'll see how that pans out. And now moving to the first division, there were 2 rounds of fixtures, so Friday and Monday. But first on Friday, Bray Wanderers drew 1-1 with Cove Ramblers, and then Wexford got a good 3-0 win at that Lone Town. Cork City continuing their fine start to the season, as Conor alluded to at the beginning, beating Longford Town 4-1. Treaty United 2, Galway United 3, and then Galway got a second win of the weekend, beating Longford Town 2-0. So sorry for mentioning that one again, Conor. And then Cork City 3, Treaty United 0, Wexford 1, Bray 1, Waterford, who had a bye week on the Friday, back in action then, beating Athlone 1-0. So at the very top, Gary, Cork and Galway kind of continuing to set the pace, and especially I suppose Galway were looking a little bit shaky on Friday, but then were able to get the result they needed at the very end.
Yeah, absolutely. I think both teams look as if they're going to battle it out. Obviously, you would be expecting Waterford to be a little bit further or closer to them, but Galway really turned it around from 2-0 down and picking up 3 goals and getting an 88-minute winner. I think it was Walsh who's after scoring a right few goals in the last number of weeks. So, but Cork really look at a very polished outfit. They're very good midfield in Healy, Coffey and Bulger, and they look a really good organised side. And they've Gilchrist at the back, signed from Shelbourne, and young Harrington. John, Biscuits Harrington, his son is playing in goals for Cork as well. So, I think it'll be an intriguing title race. I think if Waterford can string a few results together, I think they could possibly get themselves in there. Obviously, Galway have a game in hand over Waterford, which would put them level whether to win it. But John Caulfield and the Galway side, there's a great kind of I suppose spirit down in Galway at the minute, and there's a lot of supporters going to games. So it's all set to be a really good title race, and obviously Cork City and Galway and Waterford, 3 regional areas which you would like to kind of to be represented in the Premier Division.
You look at Waterford, like at the facilities that they have as well. You're talking about that there, Gary, the regional, like the facilities, the training facilities, the ground, And with Galway and Cork and Waterford, the fans will definitely turn out. I know Cork are getting decent gates, and the Cork have gone through a hard time over the last few years. But look, it's going to be tight. John Caulfield will be doing everything in his power to get Galway into the Premier League. So I think Waterford probably bouncing back a little bit, but I think it'll be the top 2 of Galway and Cork, and it'd be good to see the likes of Cork back in the Premier League.
And 3 full-time teams as well, like that kind of gets forgotten about. And Johnny's right about the facilities, training facilities in Galway and Waterford, and Cork are excellent. So I think everyone would be hoping to get 1 or 2 of them back up into the top flight. I think the supporters in Cork have been phenomenal, the same sort of levels that they would have had when they were winning titles. The full houses down there.
Gary, we talk about the loud derby and stuff. Like, in fairness, Drogheda should be bulldozed. They should be knocked down the place. It's gone. The dressing rooms are still the same. And I played at Shamrock Rovers B team when I was 18. The dressing rooms are the exact same. They're just being painted, and just something that bugs me. They need, and the FAI thing's still on the ground there. I think that it's belonged to them, So we're talking about the likes of Waterford, the facility, the stadium there, Galway, Cork. I mean, and it's just dropped to come into my head there, and it's stuff like that needs to be improved around the league.
Yeah, you're right, and the facilities in the league in general, when you said when you went there for Shamrock Rovers B team, when I started the league, I remember sitting beside Stephen Gagan's dressing. This place the same when I was here, and 20 years on, when I'm long gone, and it's still the same. I think that the facilities in our league do let us down. I think the product is really good on the pitch, and when you look at the product in the cup final, when you've got the two best teams in the best stadium in the country, I think you look at our league and our games, you can be really proud of the product when you see it in a proper stadium. But the stadiums around the country, for whatever reason, be the FAI or government, their funding isn't there that you would even get up the north. The stadiums in the north are better funded. I'm not having a go. I'm just stating the fact, and that's the reality of it. I'm not slating Drogheda. I'm just saying, the place just needs to be knocked down. The pitch itself is a fine pitch, but just the surroundings. The RT showed a game there, the Derby a couple of weeks ago, and it was just, the coverage, the match was good, but just the surroundings of what people are seeing, and if people are looking in at that, they're saying, is this the National League? Is this the Premier League? It's wrong. It really is wrong, and it's just something that just bugs me, and I just have to say it.
Yeah, no, well, Carl Shepherd, actually, I think the Derby you're referencing there, which I think was last month, he made the same point about the stadium, the Drogheda Stadium. But in regards to what can be done, because obviously finances are going to be, it's the big word that'll come out. Like, what can be done to try and at least help clubs to make the changes that need to be done, whether it's renovation or, as you're saying, knocking down the ground?
I mean, I think you could build there was talk about building a stadium in between Dundalk and Drogheda. Could you share the grounds? I mean, Dundalk, in fairness, Gary, is I know they've the facility on the far side of the pitch, but they all stand there as well. If they could, share the ground and build a proper stadium of 8,000 or 10,000, and I know we look at talent and see what they've done there, and they've added in the new stands, and they'll eventually finish the whole lot off. I look at Sligo the other night, and in behind the town end, that end, if they can get a stand in there as well, it just completes the stadium. And the visuals of that, when you're looking at the game, are coming to the ground for a night out, or it's entertainment. It's where people want to go, and they can go and enjoy games in good facilities. But to answer your question, maybe the Drogheda and Dundalk can come together and get the finances and have a stadium, and supported by the government or whatever else financially, and get a proper stadium in.
Okay, we'll see how that pans out over time anyway. But before we go, there's the Women's National League as well. On Saturday at Lone Town beat Sligo Rovers 5-0. Galway drew 2-2 with Wexford. So Wexford, who are expected to be in the three-horse race, dropping points there. And then DLR Waves, who've made a good start, up in fourth, beating Cork City 6-0. Shelbourne, the champions, beating Treaty United 5-0. And then Peamount and Bohemians drawn 1-1. So that was a very significant result.
A landmark result for both there, getting that draw, and significant implications as well, really.
Yeah, because I was going to ask you, Conor, because this weekend is a huge one in the title race. It's Shelbourne, who are 2 points clear now, hosting Peamount, and they were the top two last season, and it went to the final day in the most dramatic circumstances. And again, it's building up very nicely. Peamount have actually made a really good start to the season, other than this draw, and then the administrative issue with the
result was overturned.
A 6-0 result. Yeah, but it's building up nicely.
There should be a lot of needle in the air at this game, given the fashion in which Peamount unbelievably threw away the league last year. So, and Shels will obviously want to retain their title, but they're two excellent teams, and we see obviously Chloe Mustaki playing for Ireland there recently against that superb result against Sweden. So the league is bubbling nicely, and it's obviously, as expected, it was a two-horse race. Now Wexford are just hanging off the edge of it. I know they have designs on cracking into that, and they haven't won the league for a few years, but it's shaping up that Shels and Peamount are going to be hard to dislodge, and it'll be a very interesting game in Tolka on Saturday.
Yeah, and before we go, I was going to touch on League One, or English League One, with Rotherham United and Wigan both getting promoted. And obviously both teams have a number of Irish players. And I think the one we were going to talk about was Georgie Kelly, obviously formerly of Bohemians, very prolific for Bohs, and then signed for Rotherham for the second half of this season, and only made his debut there against Gillingham at the weekend, the 2-0 win, which sealed promotion, and got the second goal. Chidozie Ogbene, obviously, who we know from the Ireland team, setting it up. But Gary, I suppose from Georgie Kelly's point of view, very timely, and especially now that he's going up to the Championship as well, and hopefully will be staying with them for that campaign.
Absolutely. Look, if Carlsberg did debuts, that's what it's all about. He's only on the pitch, and to put his name in the history books at Rotherham, with like an instant fan favourite. Like Georgie's been unlucky. He was due to play in the EFL Trophy in the semi-final about 6 weeks ago. He was due to start in that game, and he got injured on the Monday, and that game was on the Tuesday or the Wednesday. So he was due to and that would have kind of bedded him into the group and got himself more involved. But he's been on the bench in recent weeks, over the last 3 or 4 games. But like I said, made his debut the weekend, and what an impact he made. And such a cool, calm finish, and slotted it home nicely. But the celebrations, and I suppose what it meant to the club. It's massive to go from League One to be promoted into the Championship. Like the Championship, I think is probably rated the fourth best league in Europe. So like it's a really, really fantastic achievement for that group of players. And like you said, you've got Irish players there in the group in Wigan and in Rotherham, both clubs going up to the Championship. So it'll be great for Georgie, given that confidence, obviously, to get his debut under his belt in League One. But now he's going to be a Championship player, and I think he's there for 3 years. So the management team have really invested in him. They haven't rushed him. They've taken the time. They've got him up to speed, and I think he's still doing exams as well. So I think he'll be glad to get the exams out of the way and really focus in on his football, and he'll be a Championship player next year.
Yeah, and then from the Wigan point of view, obviously Will Keane, we haven't seen the best of him with Ireland yet, but he's only at the very start of his international career, but scoring goals for fun in League One. And then James McLean had a really, really good season, was able to come back and just in time for the last game. But Jamie McGrath was the one I was sort of kind of interested in, because he's broken into the Ireland team, Johnny, and we've seen great things from him previously at St Mirren and then Dundalk before that. And it just maybe with Wigan so far, hopefully in the Championship next season he's able to kick on, but so far anyway, we're just still waiting to see him make an impact there.
I've seen Jamie even as a young player at St. Pat's. He technically a really, really, really good player. He's done fantastic for himself. He's a bit of drive about him. He obviously went to Dundalk, got his move to St Mirren, and they were raving about him up there. He's come into the international team. So it's kind of up and up for me, for Jamie. He's, every time he's asked to move up the ladder, he's able to take the next rung of the ladder, wherever department it is. Stephen's given him a brilliant chance coming into the senior international team. He's taken it with both hands, and he didn't disappoint, or he didn't let us down. So again, this is the next step for them, moving into the next league, and I think he's quite capable of anything that's asked from him.
Yeah, and isn't it more a case, like, it's always difficult moving in January, and usually once you get a good summer and then into that Championship next season, it'll be crucial for him.
Yeah, but I think that's... Sorry, go ahead.
No, go on ahead, John.
I just think that's a mindset of a player, that it's about him, is about how confident he is or where he is at this time of his career, and to have that confidence to move in mid-season and just slot in and just the new surroundings, no bedding in period. He has a bit of, I'm sure, of self-belief in what he can do and what he's doing at the moment.
Yeah, and Gary, sorry, you were about to make a point there.
Yeah, I think you're right in what you're saying there. It just takes a little bit of time to go from one league to another, and the fact then, a bit like Rotherham, Wigan were on top of the table and winning games, and there's obviously a core group of players who have been doing the business for the manager, because I think it is maybe probably looked at more of a view that signing was made with Championship football in mind, and I think Jamie will be hoping that as well, that he gets a good pre-season under his belt and kicks on, because like what Johnny said, I think he's absolutely more than capable of stepping up to Championship football. We've seen him step into international football, and he took that in his stride, and I would have played him. He's got fantastic quality, and I would even argue that he could play at a higher level again. But look, he needs to get into that Wigan team first and bed down a starting position, which he's more than capable of doing.
Yeah, but anyway, between himself, Ogbenny, Georgie Kelly, a few more players playing in the championship next season, so that's going to be exciting. So before we go, the fixtures that are coming up this weekend domestically. So Shelbourne are playing Sligo Rovers on Friday, 7:45 kickoff. UCD up against Dundalk, Derry City against Bohemians, Drogheda United against Pats, and then Shamrock Rovers against Finn Harps is the 8 o'clock kickoff at Tallaght Stadium. And then also there are games on Monday with Derry City up against Pats at 7:45 and Shamrock Rovers against Sligo Rovers again at which is at Tallaght Stadium, but at 8 p.m. kickoff. And then the first division, the Cove Ramblers against Galway, Bray Wanderers against Waterford, Athlone Town against Cork City, and then on Saturday, Longford Town against Wexford FC. And in the Women's National League, as we've said already, a huge game between Shelbourne and Peamount at 2 o'clock on Saturday, Sligo Rovers against Galway at the same time, and then Cork City and Athlone at 5 o'clock, and Treaty United and Bohemians at the same time. And then the 6 o'clock game is Wexford against DLR Waves, which I think brings us to an end. So we've got Champions League to look forward to, as we said at the very, very top. So Liverpool Liverpool going to Villarreal for the second leg tonight on RT2 and the RT player. But Gary, Johnny and Conor, thanks a million for coming on, and enjoy the football over the next week.
Pleasure,
No problem.
always a pleasure.
Thank you.